Last week we talked about Surah Al-Adiyat. Alhamdulillah, we talked a little bit about the chapter Adiyat and kind of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the psychology of human beings and how He addressed that and how He talks to human beings the way we think, not necessarily how we're supposed to think. We talked about that last time in Surah Adiyat. We talked about the disloyalty, quote unquote, of a human being. Just that natural feeling of it, and we talked about the unfaithfulness. Before that, the week before that, we talked about Surah Al-Asr, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swore by time, and then what was the basic things that we needed to just quote unquote survive. Inshallah, this week, what we'll be talking about are Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas. They're up here on the projector. Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas, the last two chapters of the Quran. These chapters are very, very well known as they're obviously the last two and from the smallest of the Quran. And a lot of times we're taught them at a very young age. But inshallah we'll do our best to try and understand them, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, with the help of Allah. That's what bi'idhnillah means. Bi'idhnillah translates to with the help of Allah. And there are a couple of key points actually that I wanted to highlight today. Firstly, inshallah, these two chapters are talking about now, if you want to get from point A to point B, you're going to need the help of Allah. You're going to need the help of God, right? And how do you achieve that help of God? Because there's always going to be something in your way. There's always going to be something trying to stop you. There's always going to be something trying to harm you. Something in your way, a little bump on the road. So now, how do you get from point A to point B with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? These surahs kind of help us understand and work towards asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking God for help. The first surah, Surah Al-Falaq, just to give you a general overview, it deals with us asking God to help us with physical things. Okay? It deals with us asking God to help us with physical things. Getting pricked by a needle, for example, or whatever it may be, something that affects our physical state. Surah Al-Nas, the surah afterwards, deals with us asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us with our spiritual state, with our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can we improve that? That's what Surah Al-Nas talks about. But before I get into any of the surahs, I wanted to cover and I wanted to explain one thing that I personally feel is very, very, very important, and it'll kind of guide us throughout our study of Quran. And the reason why I say that is because we believe as Muslims that the Quran is the Word of God. Now, we also believe that there are certain things that we should do, certain things that we should avoid, because God said so. Now, I'm going to give you an example. If I tell you to get out of the classroom right now, with all due respect to myself, you're probably not going to listen to me. That's just the truth. Or if a little kid walks in, some 5-year-old kid walks in and just starts telling everyone to get out, you're just going to look at him, you're going to laugh, and just keep on going. But assuming that we have good respect and a good relation with our parents, if your parent walks in, or anyone who it may be that you have in high regard, someone that you respect, if they come in and they tell you, hey, you need to get out of this classroom right now, chances are, more likely than not, you're going to get out of the classroom, just out of respect to that person. Similarly, that's what we need to understand when it comes to understanding the Quran. When it comes to doing the do's and don'ts, when it comes to, avoiding certain things, when it comes to doing certain things, when it comes to sacrificing certain things, or when it comes to even understanding the word of Allah, the Quran, and again, this is the belief that we have as Muslims, that is the word of God, then you have to understand a little bit who God actually is. What do us as Muslims believe? What do we believe is God? With that, we're going to start with one thing, and that is the word Rabb. The word Rabb. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. It's this word right here. It's the third word. And that word rises and it comes up a lot of times in the Quran. Now, what does Rabb actually mean? I want anyone to raise their hand and tell me what you think Rabb means. If no one raises their hand, I'm going to call on someone. Please raise your hand. Yes?
Lord.
Lord. Very good. That's the translation I was looking for. Lord. A lot of times, or 99% of the time, we translate Rabb as Lord. That's what it's just translated as in the English language. The truth of the matter is, though, there is much, much, much more to the meaning of Rabb than just Lord. And I told you guys last week that inshallah this week we'll talk about it. It's very important. It feeds into how we understand these surahs. Now, to understand Rabb, we have to understand that there are 6 things that are encompassed in the meaning of Rabb. The meaning of Rabb, Lord, quote unquote, there are 6 meanings that it has with it in the Arabic language. Number 1, it means al-murabbi. Al-murabbi. Murabbi in the Arabic language means someone who raises you. You may have heard the word before, especially if you're from like an Arab community. You may have heard the word tarbiyah before, maybe. Tarbiyah. It kind of means like proper, raising of someone. Treating someone, just raising someone. It's hard to explain it, especially in English. But just to raise a child, sometimes you gotta yell at them, sometimes you gotta gift them. That raising of a child, that's called tarbiyah. So that's what the root of this word murabbi means, to raise someone. So the first meaning we get from the word Rabb, from the meaning of the word Rabb, Lord, is murabbi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises us. The second meaning inside of this word Rabb is al-murshid. Al-murshid, which means the one who guides. The one who guides. The idea that's given, the picture that's drawn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here that He's the one who guides us to certain class. Have you ever, especially here at university, you guys notice that sometimes you have just a little niche for something? Maybe it might be math. Everyone's like, no, don't lie. No one has a niche for math. But it might be science, maybe social studies, history, whatever it may be, but you just have a little niche, something that you're just naturally good at. Everyone's just like, I don't understand how you're acing this class. And you're just like, I don't understand either. I just kind of just took the test. Everyone has their little niche. This is inside of the meaning of al-murshid. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that He guides us is not necessarily just guiding us religiously, but throughout your life, certain things will happen that will bring you to where you are today. And everyone has examples of this. Everyone has examples of this, of something that may have happened before, and because of that, you are where you are today. It's that domino effect, right? So this is what murshid means. He guides you. And again, that doesn't necessarily just mean religiously, but also in our daily lives. I'll give you an example. When I was a little bit younger, about 5 years ago, in high school, I was the quarterback on my football team, and I used to do a lot of MMA, mixed martial arts. I know it's hard to believe because I haven't grown since I've been in high school. I'm still 5'8", astaghfirullah. My younger brother has all of the good genes of the family. He's like 6'4". It's not fair at all. But we live life. But when I was in high school, I had tore my ACL. Those of you who do not know what an ACL is, your knee is basically like this, right? It bends backwards. The ACL is the ligament that's in the very middle of it. It kind of holds it stable. I tore my ACL. I was wrestling one of my friends and my knee bent backwards. So I tore my ACL. And because of that, it seemed like something that was, it was terrible, right? I very, very, very much enjoyed doing MMA. I love mixed martial arts. I've been doing martial arts since I was young. All different types of martial arts. And I really enjoyed, just training in MMA. And after I tore my ACL, it just seemed like, that's it, everything is over. But what I didn't know is that it may have been a blessing in disguise. After I tore my ACL, I obviously had a lot more free time and ended up staying at home a lot more. And I started studying the religion a little bit more. And I realized that my Arabic was very, very weak. Even though some of you may know, but my mom is from Morocco. My dad is American. Everyone's American, but my dad's half German, half Irish. Okay, born and raised here in the United States, and my mom is from Morocco. So I knew a little bit of Arabic growing up, but after this little bit of free time that I had reading through the Quran, this, that, and the other, I realized that I really actually didn't know much of Arabic, and I didn't know the nuances of Arabic. And the prime example of that is like the word Rabb, what we're going through right now. The word Lord, right? It's translated as Lord. Yes, you may assume that you know it, but the truth of the matter is those 6 meanings under it, this is what happens when you study the language of Arabic. So what ended up happening is I ended up transferring to an online high school. I started in an online high school. And I finished all of my high school in 1 year, alhamdulillah. It's not because I'm a genius, it's just because online high school is that easy. And after I finished high school, I started my college. In my college, my mom told me, since you have a lot of extra free time, you graduated early, why don't you just go learn Arabic? You have nothing else to do with your life, right? I mean, you're worthless, basically. No, since you're not doing anything else, why don't you just go learn Arabic? You have a bunch of extra free time. I was like, okay, not a bad idea. So I thought about going to Saudi Arabia. I got accepted into Al-Qura, which is the university in Saudi Arabia in Mecca. I didn't go because it was halfway across the world and I'm not really a big fan of Saudi Arabia. But that's a different topic for a different day. We went to Morocco, where my mom's from. My now wife, her father, so my father-in-law now, not my father-in-law then, he took us around. And he showed us around, the city and this and that, because he is the head instructor, kind of the lead of all of French studies in the country of Morocco. Okay, so that was just kind of his position. He made sure all the teachers were doing what they had to do. So he knew a lot about the schools, took us around, and he was like, listen, the education that you receive here, phenomenal. You won't find it anywhere else in the world because you're learning Arabic in an Arab country. You're not going to find it better anywhere else. But the environment around these universities and stuff like that is not usually the greatest, because the kids that usually end up going to these Arabic schools in an Arab country are either kids who didn't pass their own mother tongue in like normal schools, or they're like bad kids who couldn't fit into a normal school, so they ended up coming to a religious school, right? So it's kind of like a back net, right? Safety net. So that was kind of crossed out. So I ended up moving to Irving, Texas, and I studied with Ustad Nu'man Ali Khan in Bayina's Dream program, and that's where I learned my Arabic. After which I was introduced to a whole bubble of people, a whole different world of people, all these public speakers, all these people doing a lot of effort to try and spread the word of Islam, trying to spread just the proper understanding of Islam in whatever capacity that they can. And I was introduced to this. And I eventually ended up graduating, going to Qalam, alhamdulillah, learning under Shaykh Abdul Nasser. So what seemed to be the whole point of all of this, now you know my life story, but the whole point of all of this was to tell you that after I tore my ACL, it seemed as if like it was a punishment. It seemed as if it was something that wasn't supposed to happen, something that I was really sad about. But what may have been a blessing in disguise, or what was a blessing in disguise. Because of that, I was guided to a certain path. My life had completely changed from one way to another because of that accident that I had. And with that, we understand from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the second name that is, the second attribute, I should say, that is inside the meaning of Rabb, Lord, is Al-Murshid, the one who guides you. That certain things will happen in your life that will guide you to who you are today. Certain things may not happen in your life to guide you to who you are today, and etc., etc., etc. Al-Murshid. First was Al-Murabbi, the one who raises you, gives you the proper, nutrition, the proper everything that you need to be raised, right? And then Al-Murshid, the one who guides you. The third and the fourth are connected, and those are Al-Malik and As-Sayyid. Al-Malik and As-Sayyid. And if you don't understand Arabic, it's completely fine. I'm translating everything anyways, right? The only reason I give it in Arabic, just because those are the official terms. Al-Malik means the one who owns you. The one who owns you. That's your property. Just says you own your phone. That's, I'm pretty sure all of you have. If you don't have a phone, I don't know what's wrong with you. What kind of parents that you have. You might have very strict parents. But you have a phone. You own it. If you throw it on the ground, okay, so what? It's your property, right? If you throw it at your car window, so what? You get mad, you throw it at the wall, so what? The sisters are looking at me like, I would never do that to my iPhone. No, don't say that. But it's your property, you own it. As-Sayyid means, and I told you these two go together, As-Sayyid means you have full authority over something. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He owns us and then has full authority over us. Why is that important? Why is it important to separate these things? Your car. I'm pretty sure most of you have a car, or at least your parents have a car. You own your car, but you do not have full authority over your car. Your car has to pass certain inspections to be on the road. Your car has to be limited to certain rules of vehicles on the road. Your car has to be insured if you want it to be on the road. Of course, we're talking legally, right? So also when you're on the road, you can't drive the car as fast as you'd like to drive it. There is a speed limit. So you do own the car, but you don't have full authority over it. You can't do whatever you want with it. So a lot of times these things are different. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or by the scholars explaining to us, Al-Malik and Al-Sayyid, not only does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full ownership, but also has full authority. There's no judge on top of it. There's no one to say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. There are certain rules of humanity. It's like, no, I kind of created that, so I can do whatever I want with it. This is the idea of Islam. So again, we're going to recap. The first was Al-Murabbi, the one who raises you. Al-Murshid, the one who guides you. Then Al-Malik and Al-Sayyid, the full owner, and the one who has full authority. And then we have two more left. One is Al-Qayyim, and the last one is Al-Mun'im. Al-Qayyim means that without him, or without it, you would cease to exist. You would cease to exist. Now, I'm almost 100% sure that all of you have either been to middle school or elementary school, or else you probably wouldn't be in university. In middle school, you know that weird science project that you have, you put a seed inside of the soil or the dirt, and you put water, and you kind of have to grow a little plant, like a beanstalk or whatever. It's like the coolest thing in the world. For that plant, you are now qayyim. You are now qayyim. Because if you have, without you, that seed or that tree or that stalk would cease to exist. If you give it too much water, it'll die. If you give it too little water, it'll die. If you give it too much sunlight, it'll die. If you don't give it enough sunlight, guess what? It'll die. So this is what Al-Qayyim means. That without this entity, you would cease to exist. In the example of the plant, it's us. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala belongs the greatest example. However, that's just an example for us to understand. So by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being Al-Qayyim over us, we understand that without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without God, all of everything would literally cease to exist. I'm going to give you an example of this. How many of you know what scuba diving, all of you probably know what scuba diving is. You don't live under a rock. You know what scuba diving is. You go underwater, you got this little thing in your mouth, you got a tank on your back so you can breathe underwater. Some of you may or may not know, but in that tank is not 100% oxygen. Because 100% oxygen is actually poisonous to our lungs. 100% oxygen, all the doctors are like, yeah, yes, biology students love my parents. No, I'm joking. That's how you know you're Pakistani, you're Arab, you're a biology student. But 100% oxygen is actually poisonous to our lungs. So when you walk outside and you're breathing, it's not 100% oxygen that you're breathing in. It's a little bit of a bunch of different gases. I'm not even going to try and tell you what they are because you're probably just going to laugh at me because I don't know. But it's not 100% oxygen. So the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in this entire globe that we're living on, right? And sometimes we forget how huge the earth is. Think about how long it takes you to walk to your car in the parking lot, right? It's like, God, it's so far. Now think about how long it'll take you to walk to where you live, right? Now think about how long it'll take you to walk around the whole city of Arlington. And then remember, the city of Arlington is a tiny little dot in the entire state of Texas. How long it'll take you to walk around the whole state of Texas. And the state of Texas is not even 50% of the United States. Think about how long it'll take you to walk around North America, and then South America, and so on and so forth, right? It's not geography class. But sometimes we forget how huge the world is. The entire globe has the perfect amount of oxygen and whatever other gases for us to breathe. With that, we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Qayyim, that without Him, we would cease to exist. Again, we're going to recap. Number one is Al-Murabbi, the one who raises you. Number two, Al-Murshid, the one who guides you. Number three, Al-Malik. And number four, As-Sayyid. They go hand in hand. The one who has full ownership and the one who has full authority. Number five was Al-Qayyim, the one that without Him you would cease to exist. And last but not least is Al-Mun'im. Al-Mun'im means the one who gives gifts. Gifts, presents. The one who gives gifts. With this we understand that everything that we may have is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a lot of times we're like, well, actually, I worked for this sweater, so don't even start with me. Let me give you an example. If you're working for me, right, let's say you're washing my car. I give you $20 to wash my car. I won't give you $20 to wash my car. Don't even come ask me. Broke students. But let's say you work for me and I'm giving you $20 for doing a job, in this example, washing my car. After you wash my car, you expect your money, your reward. You did a certain job, so you deserve a certain reward. Before we were born, what job did you and I do to deserve the hands that we have? Working hands. And think now how many children are born without hands, that are born with limbs that they can't use, right? What job did we do to deserve the feet that we have? Nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that as a gift. What did we do to deserve the air that we breathe, the food that we have? Because everything that we eat is from the earth, right? It's not like some scientists created some weird thing. Everything's from the earth, right? There's this and this and that and the other flavors from here and there, from things that are on earth, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had put on the earth before that we were even here. So now we understand that everything that we have is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let me ask you something. Let's say Eid rolls around, or maybe Christmas rolls around, right? Or if there's any non-Muslims in the audience. Whatever holiday rolls around, and you get a gift. When you get a gift, you don't complain about the gift that you receive, because you weren't expecting it, right? It's not something that you worked for, and because you worked for it, you get this, right? You work 1 hour and you get $20, right? Example. So if your employer gives you $19, there's a reason to be angry. You didn't receive the full payment that you deserve, right? But when someone comes and gives you a gift, whether it just be a card, you don't be like, well, actually, I deserve $5 inside of this card. Please don't be cheap. You can't complain about a gift. It's not something that necessarily that you worked for. So whether it be good or bad, it's something that you just get. It's there. It's for you. You're thankful for whatever you have. With that, we understand, with that, we understand Al-Mun'im, that everything that we receive is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing to complain about. This is very important moving forward in life, especially, mashallah, alhamdulillah, you guys, very intelligent university students. The second you graduate, the only thing you want more than getting married is money, right? Let's be honest, that's why you guys are all here, right? To get married, trying to see what brothers come to the MSA lectures. But, what was I talking about? Al-Mun'im, yes. Gifts, sorry. Squeaky boards, man. Let's get you. I forgot what I was talking about, man. So, okay, yeah. So, the only thing you want more than getting married is money. Right? We're making fun of you guys. No, I'm joking. I was the same way. The only thing I'm already married, so the only thing I want now is money. But sometimes when we're in the workforce, when we're looking for money, it's very easy to look above you, right? To be like, oh, how come he or she is making more money than I am? I want that much money too. I want to be making X amount of dollars. How come celebrities have got more money than they could even spend? How come, like, well, forget celebrities. Celebrities aren't even that rich. You want to see rich people? Those are like the CEOs of like Citibank, the CEOs of Bank of America, McDonald's, Apple, Microsoft. These are the rich people. These people that you don't even see. You know, kind of the big heads in New York and stuff like that. Anyways, there's always someone that makes more money than you, and you're always kind of going for that. But when you understand that everything that I have, when I understand that everything that I have, no matter how small or how large the amount is, if you understand that that is a gift, now there's no longer a complaint. Now the only thing that is left is, Alhamdulillah, I'm happy. All thanks and all praises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because whatever I have is not mine innately. I wasn't born with a birthright to whatever I have. Whatever I have is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the 6 things under the meaning of Rabb. So you know how we talked about in the first day of class, that throughout this class we'll very slowly, but actually very quickly, understand why the Quran was actually sent down in Arabic. It's extremely nuanced, right? This surah starts off with قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Say, and I'm going to give a very brief translation, but say that you seek refuge, even though seek refuge is kind of a bad translation, but say you seek refuge in the Lord of Al-Falaq. Pretty sure that's what it says. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of daybreak, Al-Falaq. It's translated as Lord. But now that you, alhamdulillah, were very patiently listening to my babbling, you understand a little bit of the meaning of the word Rabb. Doesn't it transform the meaning of the surah entirely? Remember last week we studied Surah Al-Adiyat, right? وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that big scene, how you're on top of the war horse, and the war horse is breathing very heavily, and it's making these sparks behind you, and a big cloud of dust, all of it, right? We talked about it in detail last week. After that entire scene, we talked about how this whole scene is creating an idea where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to instill in us how loyal the horse was. How loyal the horse was. Because you don't want the horse to pay rent. You don't want the horse to feed you. That's not what the horse is there for. The horse, you have raised it, you have groomed it, you have given it everything it needs so that when you tell it to go, it goes. Same thing with our cars, right? You put gas in your car, you put oil in your car, you get it inspected, you do this, that, and the other, for one reason only. You don't go outside to your car and be like, all right, I fed you, after you fill it up in gas. You're not like, all right, I fed you, go give me some rent. It's like, no, what? After you feed the car, after you give it whatever it needs, the only reason you do that is because you expect it to be loyal, quote unquote. It's a little bit better with living creatures, like a horse. But the car, the example of the car, when you hit the gas, you want it to go. If you put gas in the car, you hit the accelerator, the pedal, you want it to go. You expect it to listen to you. This is the scene that Allah was creating in Surah Al-Adiyat, right? That you have this horse, you groomed it, you did this and that, and this, that, and the other, you fed it, this, that, and then he says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Most definitely the human being to his Lord, right? لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Is disloyal. Now, there's a very beautiful reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say, again, what you hear me saying after the name Allah, I say Allah, and then I say subhanahu wa ta'ala, that just means the one free of fault and the Almighty. Right? Subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just what we say after Allah subhanahu. You don't have to say it, it's just something that I say. But Allah subhanahu Almighty Allah, or the one free of fault, the God that is free of fault. He could have said, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ, most definitely the human being, لِلَّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. To Allah is disloyal. But he said, لِرَبِّهِ. The words that Allah uses to describe himself are very, very, very important to the context of the surah itself. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when God is speaking about mercy, He doesn't call Himself the one who has the most severe punishment. That's not what He calls Himself. He doesn't call Himself the King when He's talking about mercy. He calls Himself Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most gracious, the most merciful, right? Even though that's not really what it means. But we'll get into that later. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So the words that Allah uses to describe Himself have a lot to do with what the context of the surah is talking about, what's the point of the learning. So now you understand in the previous surah when Allah says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ, most definitely the human being to his Rabb, is lakanud, is disloyal. Now you understand it a little bit better, because we went through the 6 meanings of Rabb. Al-Murabbi, Al-Murshid, Al-Malik, Al-Sayyid, Al-Qayyim, and Al-Mun'im. If you were not here for those translations, come get the notes from, actually the brothers did not take notes, but maybe you can find a sister that has notes. So now we understand the meaning of the word Rabb. We can finally get into the first verse of this surah, of this chapter. Surah Al-Falaq. It deals with, like I said in the very beginning of the class, these surahs are sister surahs. They go hand in hand. One is always following the other. One deals with how we ask Allah, how we ask God with our physical needs to protect us physically. And the second deals with us asking Allah how to protect us religiously, spiritually. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He starts off the surah by saying, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Say that I seek refuge in the Lord of Al-Falaq, in the Rabb of Al-Falaq. Now, actually, I think we'll probably just end up doing Surah Al-Falaq, or briefly go through Surah Al-Falaq, just learn one lesson from it, and then we'll conclude. But as you guys saw in the translation, قُل means say. Okay, that's very simple, cut and dry. And then it's translated as, I seek refuge in the Lord of Al-Falaq. Al-Falaq is daybreak. However, in the Arabic language, when you want to say that you're seeking something out, you use 3 letters in the beginning of a word. Those letters are alif, sin, and ta. Ist. Right? That's why, I'm pretty sure if Muslims, you've definitely heard this. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. That alif, sin, and ta. By the way, I love that sound. Like when you tell someone something, they're like, oh, I've heard that before. But astaghfirullah, alif, sin, and ta. That means you're seeking out something. So ghafara means forgiveness. Astaghfir means I am seeking forgiveness. If you look to the surah, it doesn't say قُلْ أَسْتَعِيذُ. It doesn't say قُلْ أَسْتَعِيذُ. It says قُلْ أَعُوذُ. There's no alif, sin, ta. So why is it translated as seeking? It's a bad translation. It's not necessarily a bad translation, but it's a basic translation. أَعُوذُ doesn't mean to seek assistance or refuge. It means to put yourself inside of it. I'm going to try and explain that again. So, it's one thing to say that I want your help, right? It's another thing to kind of submit yourself into my help, right? And I'm kind of using me as if I will give you help. I'm not going to give you help, all right? Stay away from it. I'm not going to do your homework for you. But this surah doesn't have the seeking inside of it. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us here is if you want the help of Allah, you don't say, hey, I kind of want your help. You submit yourself into the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that mean? All hands are raised. All hands are raised. There is nothing I can do to help myself. I'm not just seeking help. Because when you're seeking something, the idea is shown that you can get it from here, you can get it from there. If you're seeking a job, if you want a job, if you're looking for a job, there's not just one place you can get a job. You're looking in many different places. However, if you submit yourself to one place, and that's it, now all hands are raised. That I need this and I don't need anything else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, He teaches us that when we ask for the help of Allah, when we ask for the help of God, we're not supposed to say, Ya Allah, I kind of sort of need your help with this. You give it all up to Allah. You give it all up to God. You say, God, if it's not you, then I can't get help. Completely submitting yourself. If it's not from you, the help is not needed. If I might get help from Brother Abdul Aziz. I might get help from Sahab. Right? But if I don't want that help, if I don't have Allah's help, if I don't have God's help, I'm pretty sure you may have heard this in the beginning of khutbahs, in the sermon that we have on Fridays. مَن يَهْدِهِ اللَّهُ فَلَا مُضِلَّ لَهُ وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْهُ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. Probably heard this before. What that translates to is whoever Allah misguides, no one can guide them. And whoever Allah guides, no one can misguide them. Whoever Allah puts on a certain path, no one can put that path away. No one can be like, listen, I kind of don't want you to do this. If there is a certain way that life is going to go, whether we like it or not. This is what Allah is teaching us. He's not saying, I don't want you to just seek assistance. Completely submit yourself. بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Completely submit yourself to the Lord, the Rabb. And again, I don't have to reiterate it, but the 6 meanings are inside of this. When we say Rabb, we're not just saying Lord, we're saying, oh, the one who raises us, the one who guides us, the one who owns us, the one who has full authority over us, the one without him we would cease to exist, and the one that everything we have is a gift from him. We are completely submitting ourselves to that entity, Al-Falaq. Now, Falaq here is translated as daybreak. However, that is a little bit of a weak translation. And why do I say it's weak? Falaq encompasses a little bit more than just daybreak. Okay, it can be used as daybreak. It can be, so it's legit, right? But there's more to it than just daybreak, just like there was more to the word Rabb than just Lord. Excuse me. The word Falaq means to split something open and then for something else to come out. To split something open and then something else comes out. So Falaq being used as daybreak, the idea is that the night is split open and sunrise comes out. This word can also be used, it's actually very commonly used. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a different place in the Quran, He says, فَالِقُ الْحَبِّ وَالنَّوَى. فَالِقُ الْحَبِّ وَالنَّوَى. You hear the beginning of the ayah, فَالِق, from the same word. To split something, something else comes out. The next word is al-hab. Al-hab, not al-hub. Hub means love. Hab is a seed. A seed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He's the one who splits the seed and allows a plant to come out of it. This is from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a plant comes out of a seed. How a tree, a whole entire tree can come from just one little teeny seed out of an apple. SubhanAllah, very interesting. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this. So in a different place in the Quran. So Falaq doesn't necessarily just mean daybreak, right? It means to split something open and then something else to come out. In this example, daybreak, the night is split open, the sun comes out, right? The light comes out, I should say, not the sun. The light kind of rips through the dark. In the example of another surah, the seed is split open and a plant comes out. And you'll notice that has a lot to do with this surah. And again, we're going to do a very brief translation of the surah just for the sake of time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say that you submit yourself in the refuge, in the assistance of your Rabb, your Lord, the Lord of Al-Falaq. بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. See that line under the qaf? That little kind of line, I don't know if you can see it, especially those of you that are sitting a little bit far. But that is called kasra, or if you're from Pakistan, it's called zair, right? That gives the E sound. Whenever you have E, it usually means that the word is jar. Jar is a grammatical status. When a word is jar, there are 2 reasons why this can happen. Number 1, because there's a harf of jar before it. There's a certain letter that makes the next word jar. Then next, the only other reason that it has is what is called mudaf, mudaf ilayh. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh. This gives the meaning or creates the meaning of, O-F, in the Arabic language, of. So with the kasra on the fa, on the qaf, the very last letter, falaqi, now you know that there can be 2 reasons why that's there. The word Rabb is not one of the words that create jar. It's not one of those words. So then you understand that the meaning of is created. This whole grammar lesson is for a point. So when you read this, Rabbil Falaqi, you learn that it is not your Lord. You're not seeking refuge from your Lord. You're seeking refuge from the Lord of Falaq. Okay? The Lord of, the one that can split things open and extract other things from it. Why is this important? Again, remember what I told you guys earlier in the class? That the way Allah describes Himself in different chapters of the Quran has a lot to do with understanding that chapter, that verse itself. What you'll notice here in Surah Al-Falaq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the first verse, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. And then, so say, submit yourself in refuge to the Lord of Al-Falaq. The next verse is مِن شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Now, what are you seeking refuge from? What are you submitting yourself in refuge from? شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Any evil or harmful thing that may have been created. وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. And the evils and the harms that may come out of the night. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And from the evils of black magic. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. And the evils of a person who is completely jealous of you. Now you understand, when you read this surah, there's one thing that has become very clear. Right? And we'll go, inshallah, maybe another day through the little nitpicking details of all of the words and this and that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He starts off this surah, when we're seeking refuge of Allah, He starts off the surah by us submitting ourselves in protection with something that is very broad. He says, مِن شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. That's the second verse. The first thing that we are seeking refuge from, or that we are submitting ourselves in refuge from. That translates to, from the evils of anything that may have been created. Anything, whatever it may be that God created that may harm me in any way, I want protection from that. And the surah ends with a person that is very, very, very specific. وَمِن شَرِّ. And from the evil or the harm, حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. Of a person who is jealous when they are acting out their jealousy. Okay? So it's a very specific thing. You're not asking protection from jealous people. There's always going to be someone jealous about something. Unless you look like me. There's nothing to be jealous about. I'm joking. I hope I'm joking. But it's very specific. You're not asking protection from someone who's jealous. You're asking protection from someone acting on the jealousy that they have towards you. So not only is someone jealous, but now they're acting out on that jealousy. They're trying to harm you in whatever way so that they have whatever it is that you have. And also jealousy in the Arabic language, actually this specific word, there are a lot of words for jealousy in Arabic. The word hasad, however, is when you are jealous of someone in a way that you wish that they didn't have it and you have it for yourself. Okay? So that's what hasad means. So say for example, Abdul Aziz's car, right? I'm jealous of his car. I have hasad of his car. I don't necessarily want to have the same car, but I want that he doesn't have that car and I have it. That kind of jealousy, that's what hasad means. So the acting out of this specific type of jealousy, very specific, right? And you'll see that the chapter gets more and more and more specific, as if it is kind of closing in on something, right? So it starts off, مِن شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. The evils of anything that may have been created, and it gets more and more and more and more specific, as if you're getting a little bit claustrophobic, a little bit squeezed inside, right? What was the meaning of Al-Falaq? When we called onto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we called Him the Lord of Al-Falaq. The Lord of, the one who splits things open to extract something out. We specifically call Allah the Lord of Al-Falaq. I keep saying the word falaq because to say split something open, extract something out is a lot more tedious than just saying falaq, it's just one word. We call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Lord of Falaq because we have all of these problems surrounded around us. But the Lord who can rip everything open and pull me out of my problems, that's who I want help from. And I see the connection between everything. How every word in the Quran is very specifically used for that specific reason. And how this is not just in one chapter. This is throughout the entire Quran. And how surahs are connected to one another. Inshallah, in another one of our classes, we'll talk about how the last 10-ish surahs, from Surah Al-Fil until the end of the Quran are very closely connected. They make like a circle, a loop, a chain. It's very beautiful. But the whole Quran is like this, right? And sometimes the question arises, how do we know that the Quran is true? Right? We covered this at MIC yesterday, where I'm the Imam, MIC, Mansfield Islamic Center. We covered this yesterday in the tafsir, in the explanation of Surah Al-Bayyinah, the surah about the most clear proof. One of the verses in Surah Al-Bayyinah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, رَسُولٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ يَتْلُو صُحُفًا مُطَهَّرًا. In this verse, God is explaining what exactly is a clear proof. Actually, I think we should end. We'll talk about it next time, inshallah. What exactly is a clear proof? But we understood a little bit today the meaning of the word Rabb, and we understood how everything in the Quran is connected. How big the Quran is, everything is connected. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this, the only religion and the only book, that it does never, ever, ever ask you to just believe. No matter what. If anyone tells you, hey, you just have to believe in me, when it comes to Islam, you know that person is bogus. It's wrong. Islam never teaches us just believe. There are multiple times in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, bring even a chapter that is similar to what the Quran has brought, and you are free from belief. You don't have to believe. Bring something. It challenges you to bring something, even a chapter, let alone the entire Quran, 114 chapters, right? And depending on the size of the Quran, it depends on the amount of pages. But some chapters are even up to 60 pages, if not more than that, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, bring just one. And that's it. You don't have to believe. This is why. Everything is connected. When we understand the Quran, it becomes easier to believe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never, ever expects us to do anything just because. Don't do it just because. There are many places in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you may think. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ, so that you may ponder. This is throughout the Quran. This is one of the beauties of the Quran. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to understand and to act upon everything that has been said and everything that has been heard. Please forgive me for any of my mistakes. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.